Hi everyone, welcome to today's workshop. I will be showing you how to create a promotional video. In this webinar, we're going to go over why you should create a video, how to plan for making your video, tips for filming using a smartphone, and then of course, how to edit your video. And in today's webinar, I'm going to be using iMovie, but I will also be creating a separate tutorial of how to use Windows Movie Maker. Video marketing is still the best performing digital content type, so it drives more views, more engagement, and more response than any other social posting option compared to things like posting a photo, a link, etc. It's important that when you start thinking about using video that you consider all of the benefits to make sure that it's right for you and that it's worth spending the time creating. So of course, if you're going to share something on social, like I just said, video is probably the most engaging way to do so. Another reason you might want to use video instead of just posting a link to an article is that videos are more memorable. Studies have shown that viewers are actually more likely to remember something they watched over something they read. So, especially if you're into educating or talking about a specific artistic process, or maybe talking about a composer, whose music you're going to play, doing that in a short video clip is generally more engaging and more memorable. And I guess this kind of goes along the same lines. So, because videos are putting a human face on what you're doing, this will help the viewers relate to your message and remember it more afterward. So, for instance, if you are a nonprofit who's wanting to market your mission and your programming, why not have people who actually participate in the programs represented in that video? So, testimonials, maybe having your CEO talk about your mission and why it's important. These all are definitely more impactful than sending out a written letter explaining what you do. It's important to maintain a tight focus when it comes to videos, especially if you're doing it for marketing purposes. Before you sit down to script out your video, you want to take a step back and consider why you want to create a video in the first place. For example, perhaps you're an organization and you want a video that introduces your mission to website visitors, so you want a video to put on your homepage. Or perhaps you are a musician with an upcoming event that needs promotion to ticket buyers on Facebook. Or maybe you're an artist running a special sale and need a video that pushes people to buy now on your Instagram feed. Here are some common goals you might have. A lot of them are really tied into marketing goals for creating your video. So maybe you want to build awareness. You want to build awareness about your brand. You want to have it be more recognizable to people and have them know what you want to do. Of course, driving sales is often an important thing for individual artists who are looking to get hired or commissioned or have, an inventory of work they want to sell. Maybe also for organizations who have upcoming concerts or special performances they want to market. Of course, you can use video to drive traffic somewhere to get people just to visit your website and maybe see what you do. A good example again are like those little ASPCA commercials with Sarah McLachlan singing the sad song and the sad dog. And, it makes people wonder, how can I help? How can I help? So they're likely to visit or call a phone number, to donate or at least get more information. So again, you can use videos to drive traffic somewhere. You also could use them to increase customer engagement, just drive up engagement on your social media pages, which again helps you get seen by more of your fans. You also could, though, use them videos that saying, you also could use videos to educate people. And so, especially as nonprofits or artists, you might have specific processes you want to outline. You can make how-to videos. There's a whole lot you can do with video. And so again, the reason I list these goals is it's important to know exactly why you're creating a video before you start. And another important thing to note is that if you have multiple goals, you may actually want to consider creating multiple videos. So I know it may seem like a great idea to just combine all your goals into one video and be done with it. But really, the more goals or ideas you're trying to cram into one video, especially if it's going to be a short one, the more likely you'll complicate things and confuse the audience. So again, if you have multiple goals, you'll probably want to consider creating multiple videos. Utilization, or how you plan to use and distribute the video content, shouldn't be an afterthought. The intended usage should shape both the content, so what's in the video, and like the style you're using. For example, a video for your homepage is going to have a different set of requirements than a video for Facebook. So make sure you have an understanding of what you're going to do with the video when you're done with it, and make sure you modify accordingly. And so that could be just something as simple as knowing how long something, will need to be in the end. It could be knowing what, titles you need to use, if you need text kind of embedded, and making sure everyone's names are spelled correctly. It could be also just what type of file do you need to end up with in the very end. So again, knowing what you're going to do with it in the end is super important. The next thing you're going to want to consider before you start filming is, now that you have your why, it should be a little easier to determine what makes sense in terms of the direction of the video. For example, let's say you're a new organization that wants to create an introductory video for the homepage on your site. And the goal of the video is to introduce your organization and get people to maybe sign up for your e-news list or sign up for a program. So in this case, you would likely go with a video that's more along the lines of introductory or explanatory in nature. You may even find like a combination of several directions makes sense. So for example, maybe you're a new company or organization, there's a lot of competition. Perhaps kind of an introductory style video with a problem and solution angle is ideal. Showing that the old way or ways people are currently doing things aren't working out, and you as a nonprofit have figured out a solution to solve world hunger or something like that. So to give you a few ideas of what I mean by when I say the possible directions you could go in, you could do introductory. Again, that's like telling the audience who you are, kind of explaining your mission, maybe giving some background and introducing yourself if you're an artist. Explanatory. So again, this is kind of like a how to, explaining how something works, maybe how you create your artwork, maybe the background story of the performance that's coming up. I'm not going to read these all to you because I know you know how to read. But I think, especially if you're a nonprofit, thinking about things like testimonials are really valuable. Making sure you're able to record interviews, quotes, any little sound bites with people you serve is especially going to be impactful for future videos. And again, of course, things just like entertainment. So, of course, us as artists, we do things that we want to entertain and delight or inspire people. So, of course, entertainment is a very suitable reason and direction to take if you're making an arts promotional video. So, after you've decided the direction, again, the kind of purpose and reason and how you're going to go about accomplishing the goal you've established, you also want to look at the tone and the duration. So the tone would be things like, is it going to be like a fun or playful video? Are we going to have some type of urgency to make people take action? I think of like the Macy's holiday sale ads. They want you to stop by the store because it's only happening 2 days this weekend. So in addition to deciding what kind of tone you want to take, you'll want to consider the duration, before you again jump in and start filming. So is this video going to be a 30-second video, a 60-second video? Is it going to be more than a minute, 5 minutes? And so as someone who's new to this, you're probably thinking, how can I know the length of the video until I script it out? So trust me, I hear you, because sometimes it's really hard to tell. But the reality is, without using some type of time parameters, your video is going to likely end up too long and unfocused, and people won't watch the whole thing once you've worked so hard to get it up and shared with the public. But really, your idea should only be as big as the time it has to unfold. So putting restrictions on your concept, from the get-go will only help to make it stronger and more effective. It'll help you kind of weed things out. But if you're not sure how long your video should be, I would probably consider your goal, and where the ad or video is going to be uploaded and shared with the public. So for example, if your goal is to promote a holiday exhibit, a 30-second ad is probably enough to get your point across. However, if you're going to try to move your audience to tears and to donate because the sad dogs or the kids, who are without food, you'll probably want to look at a minute plus or even 2 minutes to get the job, really done and everyone on board with your mission. But really, I would suggest to get a gauge, you can think back to the direction and tone you're aiming for. And I would maybe just go to YouTube and check out existing videos that, seem kind of similar and see how long they are, because that will probably help guide you. So for example, if all the videos are at least 1 minute long, that's probably a good starting place. And so lastly, another thing to consider is where the ad will appear or where the video is going to be. For example, 30-second commercials are really common on, local TV, while longer form videos are more common online. And so while I would assume a lot of us aren't, purchasing a lot of television advertising, I think it's, important to remember, like, if you are trying to do a quippy short ad, don't make it over a minute long. Assuming you have a loose idea for your video, it's now time to start fleshing out the details. So to do it, I would suggest you start kind of at a high level and then work backwards from there. So for example, before I start laying out my outline for the exhibition videos, I usually write out a paragraph that kind of summarizes the idea from a 30,000 mile above perspective. Um, and then I go in and I storyboard or list what I'm going to need to film or photograph in order to tell the story I'm wanting to tell. So you can consider things like how many different scenes, are we gonna film? How many locations? Are there gonna be like characters or speakers in the video? How will I collect them? What do I want them to say? Of course, is the video just going to be a voiceover with some pictures, or is it going to be someone actually talking on screen? Is there going to be any background music I need to find? Do we need to gather any text that will appear on the screen in order to get the message across? Or, maybe websites we need to make sure we have on there so people actually go where we want to go once they're done watching the video. And kind of what's the last message we want to leave the audience with, and how do we want them to feel, and what do we want them to do? And so I really cannot stress enough that this is probably the most important thing. um, but your video really needs to have some type of call to action. Otherwise, the time you spend making this video will kind of go to waste if you don't provide viewers with a way to take the action you wish for them to take. So feature a prominent call to action in your video that makes it clear what you want the audience to do and explains how to do it. Basically, I'd say a video without a call to action is kind of like a meal that's served without a fork and a knife. So your video might be inspiring, entertaining, or emotionally moving, but without a clear call to action, viewers will be unable to subscribe, purchase, donate, or do whatever else you had hoped for. It may sound silly, but it's important to spell things out. So without a prompt for you, viewers may not even know there's anything for them to do. So once you've planned your video, now it's time to actually take some care while filming footage that you're going to later then edit down. I would suggest actually looking first at number 6. To me, the give pauses tip is actually one of the most important things you can do, and it's often the most forgotten one. Basically, what I mean by give pauses is, especially if you're filming and someone else is talking, it's good to wait a beat before talking and like asking the question, and then wait a beat when you're done before starting and stopping the recording. It's also good to kind of, start the recording early and then make sure there's enough space in between different people talking, this because this will just make editing a lot easier. So I've had lots of things where maybe I started the recording late and the person kind of started their sentence really fast and I actually missed maybe the very first, half of the first word, and that's kind of a bummer. I've also had it where, I cut the clip too close to like myself asking the question and there wasn't enough time in between my talking and the new person talking to really edit out the end of my sentence. So you get kind of weird blips in the sound. So again, um, first off, having the patience, making sure you're taking a beat or two before the next person talks will make your editing much easier. The other tips I have for you today, for filming with a smartphone, especially, um, are pretty similar to, I think, a lot of general like photography tips. But going back up to number one, so orientation. You really want to be aware of which way you're holding your phone when you're shooting. In most cases, I would say you should really be shooting your video in landscape, so that's with your phone kind of turned horizontally. Um, Vertical video is for right now is really only good for things like Instagram stories. So I guess if you're wanting to do a lot of Instagram stuff, definitely filming vertical would work better. But in most other cases, shooting video and landscape is ideal. So if you're thinking about uploading this to YouTube or a website, definitely do horizontal. If you're going to be editing a few video clips together, make sure you're holding the phone the same way for each clip. And again, I suggest you doing it all horizontal because that's going to spare you from having those black bars on the side. But I would generally recommend you use a tripod because, of course, those will make your filming more steady. If you're stuck, though, shooting, just without one, um, here are a few tips to help you stabilize your shot. So if you keep the phone close to your body and rest your elbows on a nearby object or kind of turn your elbows inwards so they're really close to your sides instead of flaring out, that will help you have more stability, and likely then you're less shaky when holding the camera. You can also use your body to kind of absorb bounces and shakes if maybe you had to like move or turn to kind of pan around. And by setting, I mean where you're shooting. So pick a well-lit spot and don't shoot against a window or other bright background. If possible, don't shoot at noon on a sunny day, especially if you're going outside because the lighting is really harsh and directly overhead. And it sometimes makes it really hard for the person you're filming to see. Uh, Pick a quiet location with minimal background noises, even if you are using a microphone. Try to find an interesting setting and, try hard to not just stand in front of a blank wall unless for some reason it's necessary for, other parts of the video. But be aware of your surroundings and what's in your shot. And I would really suggest, kind of tidying up and cleaning, especially if you're, filming an interview in someone's office, uh, just have them tidy up a tiny bit before you begin. Point 4, exposure and focus. Make sure your camera is capturing the scene correctly. Most smartphones have an auto exposure tool. You can just double tap on the focus point, so probably someone's face, and it usually will automatically adjust. But there is an important note about autofocus and auto exposure. This can be a great function for, quick photos, but sometimes when you are shooting a video, especially if it's like one person talking to the camera and they might, shift their weight or move a little bit, the phone can actually kind of get confused and it will keep trying to adjust and refocus as the subject is shifting. And that can lead to kind of jittery looking footage. But to kind of help prevent this, if you double tap on the screen with your finger, like where the person's face is or where you're wanting it to focus, a little square will usually come up with a little yellow note that says AEAF lock, and that means it will stop automatically adjusting and kind of remain on the current settings as is. Point 5 is use a microphone. Use an external microphone for better sound. So if that's not possible, keep the camera within 3 feet of the subject. But I highly recommend you look into purchasing a microphone. Most smartphones, especially ones that still have the headphone jack or even the little dongle adapter, you can buy a pretty okay lapel microphone that just plugs into your smartphone with a cord on Amazon for about $12. That's the one TAF uses. Of course, there are like nicer Bluetooth options, but we have one. I think it's maybe the cord is 10 or 12 feet long, so you can stand pretty far away. but it works really well and helps us especially get good sound and kind of our echoey space. These are kind of tips for making your videos more high quality. And I'm kind of assuming you all know how to make a video, using the camera on your phone, but these are just tips to help you make it look more professional. Today, I'm going to show you how to start a project in iMovie, import footage or any other media you want to use, how to cut and trim clips, how to add transitions, add titles or text, and then how to save and export. So these are kind of the basic 6 things you need to know how to do to create a pretty simple, and effective video.